Blunt Rochester has been here the entire hearing, and I thank you for your patience. It took a while to get to you, but truly appreciate your willingness to stick around on such an important topic that many of us have shared experiences that hopefully lead to shared solutions as well. Senator Alsobrooks.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chair, Ranking Member Warren, and to this committee, thank you so much to the panelists for being here today. We all recognize, I know it's been said several times today, that home ownership is a key feature to building wealth in our country. And when I think about this subject, I think about my parents. My mother, who spent her 50 years as a receptionist, my father, who was a car salesman. They married at 21 and 22. And at that time, within 5 years of their marriage, they could afford to buy a home. That is no longer the case. It's no longer the expectation for my own daughter, who's 19. So I've spent the last several years, I was county executive, really focused on expanding home ownership, working to really leverage private sector dollars with public sector dollars. We were able to build or preserve about 5,000 units in about a 3-year period. And so I wonder, the first question for Dr. Glacier, I wonder if you can speak to the need to really better allocate private capital into projects that promote home construction and ownership.
Thank you, Senator. I also have a 19-year-old daughter, and so your comment about that made me just feel how much I agreed with your sentiment about how utterly implausible a home within 7 years would be for her. I think it's fundamentally, when housing worked, private capital went to provide housing where demand was highest. And you certainly see this in the data. You see this in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, both across metropolitan areas and within metropolitan areas, that we built housing in places where demand was higher, where prices were higher, and that building process helped those prices come down. That building process took care of demand. That really ceased. And you see that in my Exhibit 3, that the places that are expensive, right, don't build a lot. The places that build a lot aren't expensive. And that's because the regulatory differences across space are determining where private capital is going, not the demand, not the economic core of what makes one place more valuable than the other, not the sort of fundamental need for opportunity in one place. And so these local regulations are shaping our country. They're shaping where private capital goes. They're shaping where we get new homes. They're shaping where we get new businesses. And they're all being decided at a hyper-local level, which, I love federalism in lots of different ways. I love individual choice, but none of these local town councils or whichever your community is making a decision saying what would be best for America in terms of what I'm doing. And that's, again, why I think it is so valuable that your committee is taking up this topic, that we sort of need a national voice on this.
Thank you. Just another question. You made a statement, and you said that America's housing crisis, Dr. Glacier, was a deep, self-inflicted wound. And I'm concerned, because we've heard a lot about tariffs recently, and I introduced some legislation to actually produce some data just to give us an idea about how it will increase or how it will impact cost of home building, which I think can further exacerbate the supply shortage that we see and keep the prices high. So I just wonder what impacts you believe President Trump's proposed tariffs will have on imported materials and how it will affect the cost of home building in the United States.
For 250 years, economists have generally thought that tariffs impose costs on consumers. That is certainly true. And this is I am not going to weigh in on whatever the complicated foreign policy dance that's going on that I don't understand, quite frankly, and I'm not going to do so. And so I'm not going to second guess that. But certainly if tariffs stay high, they're going to impose costs, and we're going to be able to see that over time.
Thank you. Just a final question for our mayor here. I know that in fiscal 2024, both the city of Baltimore as well as your city of Dallas received over $30 million in total federal support from HUD. And that includes the funding allocated through the HOME program, which I know we've heard a lot about today. I'm a co-sponsor of the legislation before this committee that would reauthorize and strengthen it. But would you just talk about the impact to Dallas communities if the funding for HUD programs is significantly reduced or eliminated?
Yeah, thank you for the question. A similar question was asked earlier, and I'll give you a similar answer because it's the truth. The specific impact, I don't have the data in front of me to tell you, what that has been, but I will tell you, as far as the whole array of federal programs related to housing, aimed at the lower income end of the spectrum. Even before I became the mayor, but certainly in the past 6 years, I do see that there is a value to these programs. I do see that they do create some increase year over year in the available housing stock aimed at that end of the income spectrum. My reason for really, really wanting to participate in today's discussion, and what I will tell you, is that I believe that that amount, even in a good year, is in the 3,000 to 5,000 unit range or something like that. And what we really need to be looking at are things that are going to substantially increase the amount of housing that's available throughout the city of Dallas across income levels. And again, I'm talking about creating enough housing where it relieves pressure for everyone, from the young professional, your daughter, when she wants to move to Dallas and stop renting an apartment and become a homeowner, and to the folks who are currently living in a far-flung suburb but who work in Dallas. Maybe they're a barista at a Starbucks, but with what they're making, they have to live very, very far away. Workforce housing, things like that. I feel like we have to force ourselves to get out of this box of only thinking about housing affordability in terms of these federal programs and how much more money we can put into these and how many more people we can serve with those, and start thinking about how to have wholesale movements along the supply curve and the amount of housing that we're producing. And I don't think there's a source other than the private sector to do it. I mean, I would tell you, if I really believe that the government could do it, I would say it, but I don't think they can.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gallego.